You have a powerful gut feeling, a deep sense of knowing that you cannot explain. You've always had it. You can feel a lie before it is spoken. You can sense the weather of a room the moment you walk in. You call it your intuition, your gift. But here is the question that may have haunted you for years. If your intuition is so strong, why are you so often anxious? Why does this gift of knowing so often feel like a burden, like a frantic, buzzing alarm that never turns off? What if I told you that what you have been calling intuition is often not intuition at all? What if it is a ghost? The ghost of a brilliant survival strategy from your past still running on a loop in your nervous system. A strategy called hyper-vigilance. Intuition is the quiet whisper of the soul. Hyper-vigilance is the panicked scream of your trauma. And learning to tell the difference is the key to unlocking your true intuitive gifts and finally finding a sense of inner peace. In this conversation, we will become detectives of our own nervous system. First, we will draw a clear map showing the profound somatic differences between these two powerful signals. Second, we will understand the connection between hypervigilance and the fawn response that so many of us learned in childhood. And third, I will guide you through a simple body-based practice to begin calming your inner alarm, creating the stillness required to hear the quiet voice of your truth. This is not about doubting your gift. It is about refining it. It is time to stop being a slave to your alarm system and start being a partner with your innate wisdom. To navigate this inner landscape, we must first become expert map makers. We must learn to distinguish between the two primary radio stations broadcasting inside of us at all times: the survival system and the soul system. Let's begin with the one you know most intimately, the survival system. Its primary broadcast is hypervigilance. Where does it come from? It is a direct legacy of the fawn response. As a child, if you grew up in an environment where the emotional weather was unpredictable or dangerous, you developed a superpower. You learned to scan. You learn to read the subtle shifts in a parent's tone of voice, the tension in their shoulders, the way they closed a door. Your survival depended on becoming a highly sensitive barometer for the emotional atmosphere. This was not a choice. It was a brilliant, non-conscious adaptation of your nervous system. What is its function? Its function is singular and relentless: to detect threat. Its one and only question is, am I safe? It scans every interaction, every person, every quiet moment for potential danger. It is the part of you that replays a conversation 100 times, searching for the hidden criticism. It is the part that feels a jolt of anxiety when your boss says, "Can I see you for a minute?" It is not looking for truth. It is looking for trouble. And what is its energy? The energy of hypervigilance is the energy of anxiety. It is contracted, tight, urgent, loud. It feels like a frantic searchlight sweeping back and forth in the dark, desperately trying to illuminate the monster you just know is hiding there. It is a warning siren. And for many of us, that siren has been blaring at a low level for our entire lives. Now, let us speak of the other station, the one that is often drowned out by the noise, the soul system. Its broadcast is intuition. Where does it come from? Intuition is not a product of trauma. It is an innate quality of the self with a capital S. It is the voice of the wise, whole, integrated part of you. The part that is connected not just to your personal history, but to what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, the deep shared wisdom of all humanity. It is not a survival skill. It is a perceptual gift. What is its function? Its function is not to detect threat. Its function is to perceive truth and patterns. Its primary question is not, am I safe, but what is true here? It is the part of you that meets a new person and feels a quiet, inexplicable sense of resonance or dissonance. It is the part of you that is working on a complex problem and suddenly the answer arrives whole and complete in a flash of insight. It is not searching for what is wrong, it is simply recognizing what is. And what is its energy? The energy of intuition is the energy of peace, even when the truth it reveals is difficult. It is expansive, calm, quiet, neutral. It does not feel like a frantic searchlight. It feels like a deep, quiet knowing, a gentle resonance in your bones, a simple clarity that lands without a story or an argument. It is not a siren. It is the quiet, steady light of a lighthouse, illuminating the entire coastline at once, showing you where the rocks are, but also where the safe harbor lies. Let's imagine a woman named Karen, a 39-year-old graphic designer who is interviewing for a new job. The interviewer is charming, charismatic, and praises her portfolio extensively. Her thinking mind is excited. This is a great opportunity. He likes me. But her body feels strange, a cold, tight knot in her stomach. Her breath is shallow. The frantic searchlight of her hyper-vigilance kicks in. It starts screaming stories based on her past trauma with a critical father. He's just like Dad. He's trying to trick you. He's gonna find out you're a fraud. You're not safe. The feeling is of intense, familiar anxiety. This is her alarm system. Now, let us imagine a different scenario. The interviewer is the same, charming, complimentary. Her thinking mind is excited. But this time, there is no anxiety, no knot, no screaming. There is just a quiet, calm, neutral observation that lands in her mind, a simple knowing. The thought arrives, his words and his energy do not match. That's it. There is no story, no fear, no past trauma. Just a perception of incongruence, a quiet recognition of a pattern. That is intuition. It is not screaming, danger. It is calmly whispering, pay attention. Something here is not true. The path to strengthening your intuition is not to try and listen harder. It is to learn how to calm the frantic screaming of your hypervigilance. You cannot hear the whisper of the soul when the alarm of your trauma is blaring. The first step is not to seek more information. It is to create more silence. But how do we do that? How do we tell the difference between these two signals, not in theory, but in the heat of a real, confusing moment? The answer lies in their somatic signature, the unique fingerprint each one leaves on your body. But how do we read the map in real time? How do we discern the signal from the noise? The secret lies not in your thoughts, but in your body. Hypervigilance and intuition leave entirely different somatic and emotional fingerprints. Learning to read these fingerprints is the beginning of your mastery. Let us create a field guide, a side-by-side comparison.
The first and most important signature is the feeling in your body. Hypervigilance, because it is a trauma response, is always accompanied by the energy of contraction. It feels like a tightening, a clenching, a bracing for impact. It is the knot in your stomach, the tightness in your chest, the clench in your jaw, the shallow, held breath. Your body is preparing for a threat. It is getting smaller, harder, ready to fight, flee, or freeze. Intuition, on the other hand, arrives with the energy of expansion or a profound stillness. It does not feel tight. It feels spacious, clear. It is a deep, resonant hum in your bones, a quiet aha that lands gently in your center. It is often accompanied by a deep, slow breath, as if your body is relaxing into a truth it already knows. There is no bracing. There is only knowing. The second signature is the emotional tone. Hypervigilance always sings in the key of fear. Its emotional tone is anxiety, urgency, panic, or a vague sense of dread. It feels hot, agitated, unsettled. It is the energy of a house on fire. Intuition's emotional tone is neutrality. It is calm, quiet, curious. Even if the information it brings is difficult, for example, the knowing that a relationship must end, the feeling itself is not one of panic. It is one of a quiet, sad, but clear-eyed certainty, a sense of rightness, even in the pain. It does not feel hot. It feels cool, like a clear, deep well of water. The third signature is your mental state. Hypervigilance is loud. It is accompanied by a storm of mental chatter. It speaks in the language of, what if? What if they're mad at me? What if I get fired? What if the worst-case scenario happens? It tells looping, repetitive stories, almost always based on painful experiences from the past. It is the voice of your wounded inner child, trying to prevent history from repeating itself. Intuition is quiet. It often arrives without any mental chatter at all. It is a simple, clear knowing that lands in your consciousness fully formed. It does not say, what if he is lying? It simply says, he is not telling the truth. It does not offer an argument. It offers a conclusion. It is not the voice of your past trauma. It is the voice of your deep self. And finally, the fourth signature is the aftermath. How do you feel after you have received the signal? Following a hit of hypervigilance, you feel drained, depleted, more anxious. You have been in a fight or flight state. Your body is flooded with cortisol. The searchlight has exhausted your battery. Following a hit of intuition, you feel centered, clear, grounded. Even if the truth is hard, there is a sense of peace, a sense of alignment. You feel more like yourself, not less. It does not drain your energy. It clarifies it. For years, I lived in what I call an anxiety fog. I was receiving 1,000 signals a day. A shift in a colleague's tone, a strange look from a stranger, a sudden feeling of dread while driving. And I called all of it intuition. I was proud of how perceptive I was. I was also perpetually exhausted, chronically anxious, and I made a lot of fear-based decisions. My alarm system was brilliant, but it was stuck in the on position. The great turning point of my journey was not learning to be more perceptive. It was learning that 90% of those signals were just noise. The beautiful, intelligent, but ultimately outdated noise of my own nervous system, still trying to protect a little boy who was no longer in danger. Learning to thank that system for its service, and then gently, patiently teaching it that it could finally rest, is what allowed the other 10%, the quiet, clear, calm voice of true wisdom, to finally be heard. This is the work. Not to kill your alarm system, but to befriend it, to understand its language, to honor its history, and to teach it, with love and compassion, the difference between a tiger in the room and the shadow of a tree branch on the wall. But how do we do that? How do we actively, practically calm this beautiful, overtired guardian? The answer is a practice of creating safety, because safety is the foundation of all true intuition.
So how do we turn down the alarm? How do we create the inner silence necessary to hear the whisper of truth? The answer is counterintuitive. You do not try to silence your mind with your mind. You cannot outthink an overactive nervous system. You must speak to it in its own language, the language of the body. The root of hypervigilance is a feeling of being unsafe. It is your body still living in the memory of a past threat. Therefore, the only way to calm the alarm system is to create a profound somatic experience of safety in the present moment. Safety is the foundation of intuition. When your body feels safe, it stops screaming and it starts listening. And the beautiful truth is, you already have the tools. The somatic practices we have explored together are not just stress reduction techniques. They are intuition training exercises. The practice of finding your feet, which we have spoken of before, feeling your feet flat on the floor, imagining roots growing down into the earth. This is not just grounding. This is sending a direct, non-verbal message to the most primal part of your brain, the brainstem, that says, right here, right now, I am supported, I am stable, I am safe. And when the brainstem receives that message of safety, it begins to turn down the volume on the alarm. The practice of the hand on heart, which is the core of our work with the inner child, the gentle pressure and warmth of your own hand on your own chest, this is not just a comforting gesture. It activates the vagus nerve. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural rest and digest system. It is a biological signal of self-compassion that tells your body, you are not alone in this feeling. I am here with you. And in that feeling of companionship, the alarm softens. These practices are your first line of defense against the noise of fear. They are how you begin to create the silence. And once you have a moment of that precious silence, then you can begin the work of discernment. So I want to give you a simple two-step technique you can use anytime you are faced with a strong, confusing gut feeling. I call it the calm and query technique. It is simple, it is powerful, and it will become your most trusted compass. Let's go back to Karen, our graphic designer, in that job interview. The interviewer is charming, her mind is excited, but her body feels that tight, cold knot of anxiety. The old Karen would be swept away by the alarm. She would either believe the fear story completely or try to aggressively ignore it. The new Karen, the one who is practicing this work, does something different. First, she performs step 1. Calm the body first. Before she analyzes the feeling, before she believes the story, she takes one conscious, calming breath. In the middle of the conversation, she discreetly presses her feet into the floor, finding her feet. She might even place a hand on her own leg under the table, a small gesture of self-reassurance. Her only job in this first step is to bring her nervous system back from a 10 down to a 4, to quiet the siren just enough
so that she can think. Once she feels a little more grounded, she moves to step 2, query the feeling. She does not ask her mind, she asks her body. She asks the sensation itself with a gentle inner curiosity. And she asks the questions from our field guide. Hello, tightness. Is your emotional tone one of panic or one of peace? The tightness screams panic. That's a point for hypervigilance. Is your mental state full of racing what-if stories about the past, or is it a simple, clear knowing in the present? Her mind is flooded with memories of her critical father, another point for hypervigilance. And this feeling, is it making me feel contracted and small, or expanded and clear? She feels herself physically wanting to shrink in her chair, a clear contraction, another point. And in that moment of quiet inquiry, she has her answer. This is not her intuition. This is her trauma. This is the brilliant, beautiful, but outdated alarm system of her inner child screaming a warning about a ghost from the past. And because she knows this, she is now free. She is no longer a victim of the feeling. She can thank her inner alarm system. Thank you for trying to protect me. And then, as the sovereign adult, she can make a conscious choice. She can choose to see the interviewer for who he is in the present moment, not through the filter of her past. She has moved from being the radar to being the radar operator. This is the practice. Calm and query. It is a sacred pause between stimulus and response. It is the space where you stop being a reactor to your history and start being the creator of your present. It is the work of a lifetime, and it is the most profound gift of peace you will ever give yourself.
Today, we have learned to listen beneath the noise. We have learned that not every strong feeling is a deep truth. We have drawn a map to distinguish the frantic scream of hypervigilance from the quiet, clear whisper of intuition. We have understood that hypervigilance is not a flaw, but a brilliant, outdated survival system, a loyal guardian that is simply overtired. And we have learned that the path to true intuition is not through more effort, but through more peace, through the creation of somatic safety. You have been given the field guide to read the signatures in your body, the contraction of fear versus the expansion of truth, the heat of anxiety versus the cool of clarity, the loud stories of the past versus the quiet knowing of the present. And you have been given a practice, the calm and query technique, a sacred pause to bring your body back to safety, and then from that place of calm to ask your feeling for its wisdom. This is the art of becoming the operator of your own radar system. You are learning to thank the alarm for its diligence and then gently let it know that you are the one in the control tower now. You are the one who will discern the real threats from the ghosts of the past. This is a profound act of self-reparenting, of becoming the calm, loving, regulated adult that your inner child has always needed. So your invitation for this week is a practice of gentle awareness. It is not to judge your hypervigilance when it arises, but simply to notice it and to practice the pause. The next time you feel that familiar jolt of anxiety, that knot in your stomach, before you believe the story it is screaming, can you take just 2 minutes? 2 minutes to find your feet, to place a hand on your heart, to take one deep, calming breath, and then to gently query the feeling. Ask it about its emotional tone.
Ask it about its story. You do not have to get the right answer. The victory is in the pause itself. The victory is in the act of creating that space between the signal and your response. In that space lies all your freedom. To commit to this practice of inner discernment, to affirm your journey from being the radar to being the operator, I invite you to share a declaration. Write in the comments below, "I am learning to listen to the quiet voice." By sharing these words, you are turning down the volume on the world's noise and turning up the volume on your own deep wisdom. But as this quiet voice of intuition becomes clearer, as your inner compass begins to point consistently towards your own true north, you may begin to notice something unsettling. You may notice that some of the old roads you have been walking, some of the old relationships you have been navigating, no longer lead in the direction your soul is pointing. What do you do with the painful, heartbreaking, and quiet grief of outgrowing people you love? How do you honor the past while still being true to the future that is calling you forward? That is the courageous and tender territory we will explore together in our next conversation.